The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of Sarah's childhood bedroom, casting delicate shadows across the ivory silk of her wedding dress. She stood before the full-length mirror, her reflection showing a woman who had worked tirelessly for the past 5 years to reach this moment. Not just the wedding, but everything that had led to it. Sarah Mitchell was 32 years old, and she had built her career from the ground up. After graduating from college with a degree in project management, she had started at Henderson and Associates as an intern. The company specialized in luxury hotel renovations, transforming old buildings into stunning destinations that attracted visitors from around the world. What began as fetching coffee and organizing files had evolved into something much more significant. Over the years, Sarah had proven herself indispensable. She had a natural eye for detail and an ability to coordinate complex projects that involved dozens of contractors, artists, and vendors. More importantly, she understood people. She knew how to motivate teams when deadlines seemed impossible, how to negotiate with difficult suppliers, and how to turn the vision of wealthy clients into reality. The Grandview Hotel project had been her masterpiece. A historic building in downtown Manhattan, abandoned for decades, was being transformed into a boutique hotel that would cost $12 million. Sarah had been managing every aspect of the renovation for 18 months. She knew every contractor personally, had relationships with all the specialty vendors, and had memorized every detail of the complex timeline that would bring the project to completion. Her phone buzzed on the antique dresser. Sarah glanced at it, expecting a message from her maid of honor about the flowers, or perhaps from her fiancé David about some last-minute wedding detail. Instead, she saw a text from Marcus Henderson Jr., the son of her boss. "You're fired. Consider it my gift to you." Sarah stared at the screen, certain she was misreading the message. She read it again, then a third time. The words remained the same. Her hands began to shake slightly as she processed what was happening. Marcus Jr. was 28 years old and had joined the company 2 years ago after his father decided it was time for him to learn the family business. Unlike Sarah, who had earned every promotion through hard work and results, Marcus had been given a vice president title and a corner office simply because of his last name. He had no experience in construction or project management, and his attempts to insert himself into ongoing projects usually created more problems than solutions. Sarah had always tried to be diplomatic when Marcus interfered with her work. She would smile politely, listen to his suggestions, and then quietly continue doing what she knew was right. This approach had worked well with his father, Robert Henderson Sr., who appreciated Sarah's professionalism and trusted her judgment completely. But Marcus Jr. had always resented Sarah's position in the company. He seemed to view her success as somehow diminishing his own importance. In meetings, he would make subtle comments about her methods or question her decisions in front of clients. Sarah had learned to handle these situations with grace, but she could sense his growing hostility over the past few months. Now, on her wedding day, he had chosen to strike. Sarah's mother knocked gently on the bedroom door. "Sweetheart, the photographer is here. Are you ready for pictures?" "Just a minute, Mom," Sarah called back, her voice somehow remaining steady despite the chaos in her mind. She needed to understand what was happening. With trembling fingers, she called Marcus Jr.'s number. The phone went straight to voicemail. She tried again with the same result. Finally, She called the main office number. Henderson and Associates. "This is Jennifer," came the familiar voice of the receptionist. "Hi, Jennifer, it's Sarah. Is Mr. Henderson in today?" There was a pause. "Oh, Sarah, I'm not sure I should be talking to you." "What do you mean?" "Marcus Jr. sent an email this morning saying you no longer work here. He said something about immediate termination and that no one should discuss company business with you." Sarah felt the room spinning slightly. "Jennifer, I need to speak with Mr. Henderson Sr. This is urgent. He's not in today. He flew to Chicago yesterday for the Morrison project. He won't be back until Monday." Sarah closed her eyes. Robert Henderson Sr. was in Chicago, completely unaware that his son had just fired the person responsible for their largest and most complex project, a project that was scheduled to reach critical milestones over the next 2 weeks. "Thank you, Jennifer," Sarah said quietly, and ended the call. She sat down heavily on the edge of her bed, still wearing her wedding dress. The irony was not lost on her. She had spent the past month working 16-hour days to ensure that the Grandview project would continue smoothly during her 2-week honeymoon. She had created detailed schedules, briefed backup supervisors, and confirmed every delivery and appointment through the end of the month. 3 hours before her wedding ceremony, she had been fired by a man who probably couldn't even remember the names of the main contractors on the project. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from David. "Just finished getting ready with the guys. Can't wait to see you at the altar. I love you." For a moment, Sarah considered not telling anyone what had happened. She could go through with the wedding, enjoy her honeymoon, and deal with this situation when she returned. But she knew that wasn't realistic. The Grandview project was too important, and too many things could go wrong without proper oversight. More importantly, she was angry. Not just angry, she was furious. Marcus Jr. had deliberately chosen the most hurtful moment possible to fire her. He had waited until her wedding day, when she would be most vulnerable and least able to respond effectively. But as Sarah sat there in her wedding dress, an idea began to form in her mind. She opened her laptop and began typing an email, not to Marcus Jr., but to every contractor, vendor, and supplier associated with the Grandview project. The message was simple and professional. "Due to my immediate termination from Henderson and Associates, I will no longer be available to coordinate the Grandview Hotel project. All future communications should be directed to Marcus Henderson Jr. at the company's main number. Please note that I will not be available to provide any transition assistance or project documentation. Thank you for the professional relationships we have built over the past 18 months. Sarah attached her personal contact information and sent the email to 43 different companies and individuals. Then she turned off her phone and went downstairs to take wedding pictures. The ceremony was beautiful. Sarah managed to push the morning's events to the back of her mind and focus on the joy of marrying David. Her family and friends noticed nothing amiss. She smiled genuinely as she walked down the aisle, exchanged vows with the man she loved, and celebrated during the reception that followed. It wasn't until late that evening, as she and David were settling into their hotel room, that Sarah turned her phone back on. She had 47 missed calls. The first few were from Marcus Jr., increasingly frantic voicemails demanding that she fix this mess and return his calls immediately. Then came calls from various contractors and vendors, all confused about the change in project management and unable to reach anyone at Henderson and Associates who understood their specific contracts and requirements. By midnight, Sarah had 108 missed calls. The most interesting call had come at 11:47 p.m. from Robert Henderson Sr. himself. "Sarah, this is Robert. I'm calling from Chicago. I just spent the last 4 hours on the phone trying to understand what happened today. I've spoken with Marcus, and I've spoken with several of our contractors. I need to talk to you as soon as possible. Please call me back, regardless of the time." Sarah looked at David, who was reading the hotel's room service menu. They had planned to order champagne and strawberries, then spend their first night as a married couple talking about their future together. "I need to make a phone call," she said softly. David looked up, concerned. "Is everything okay?" Sarah told him what had happened that morning. David's expression moved from confusion to disbelief to anger. "He fired you on our wedding day." David's voice was tight with controlled fury. "What kind of person does that?" "The kind of person who just realized he made a very expensive mistake," Sarah replied, holding up her phone. She dialed Robert Henderson Sr.'s number. He answered before the second ring. "Sarah, thank God. Are you on your honeymoon?" "We're at the hotel in the city. We fly out tomorrow morning." "Sarah, I need to apologize. I had no idea what Marcus was planning. I'm flying back from Chicago tonight. Can you meet me at the office in the morning?" "Mr. Henderson, I was fired this morning. I don't think it's appropriate for me to come to the office." There was a long pause. "Sarah, the Grandview project is in chaos. None of our other project managers understand the complexities you've been handling. The electrical contractor called me directly because he couldn't reach anyone who knew about the custom lighting installations you ordered. The marble supplier in Italy is threatening to cancel the shipment because they can't confirm the installation schedule with anyone who—" Sarah said nothing, waiting for him to continue. "Marcus admitted that he fired you because he was angry about some disagreement you two had last week about the timeline. He said he thought it would teach you a lesson about respecting his authority. He didn't realize that you were the only person who understood how all the pieces of this project fit together." "I see," Sarah said calmly. "Sarah, I'm prepared to offer you Marcus's position as executive vice president. Your salary would increase to $180,000 plus bonuses tied to project completion. You would have full authority over all ongoing projects, and Marcus would report to you." Sarah looked at David, who was listening to her side of the conversation with fascination. "Mr. Henderson, that's a generous offer, but I'm about to leave for my honeymoon." Of course. "But when you get back, actually, let me think about this tonight. I'll call you in the morning before my flight." After she hung up, David was quiet for several minutes. "What are you thinking?" he finally asked. "I'm thinking that Marcus Jr. gave me something very valuable today," Sarah said slowly. "He showed me exactly how indispensable I am to that company. He also showed me that I don't have to accept being treated poorly just because I need the job." Her phone buzzed with a text message from Marcus Jr. "Sarah, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Call me." She showed the message to David, who shook his head in amazement. "What are you going to do?" he asked. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, looking out the hotel room window at the city lights below. She thought about the past 5 years of her life, the projects she had completed, the relationships she had built, and the reputation she had earned through hard work and dedication. "I'm going to make a counteroffer," she said finally. The next morning, Sarah called Robert Henderson Sr. at exactly 8 o'clock. "Mr. Henderson, I've thought about your offer, and I'm interested in discussing it. However, I have some conditions." "Name them." "First, I want partial ownership in the company. Not just a salary increase, but actual equity. 5% of Henderson and Associates." There was silence on the other end of the phone. "Second, I want complete authority over project management decisions. No interference from Marcus Jr. or anyone else." "Sarah." "Third, I want a formal apology from Marcus Jr. in writing for his unprofessional conduct yesterday." Those are significant demands. "Mr. Henderson, your Grandview project is worth $12 million. If it's not completed on time and to specifications, you'll face financial penalties that could bankrupt the company. You have contracts with 3 other luxury hotels that depend on the success of Grandview as a reference. Without me, you're going to lose all of those projects." "I understand your position, but I haven't finished," Sarah continued. "Fourth, I want Marcus Jr. removed from any oversight role in project management. He can have whatever title you want to give him, but he doesn't interfere with actual work anymore." "Sarah, he's my son. He's also the person who fired your most valuable employee on her wedding day as a power play. He nearly destroyed your company because he was angry about a professional disagreement." There was a long pause. Sarah could hear Robert Henderson Sr. breathing heavily on the other end of the phone. "If I agree to these terms, when can you start?" "I'll be back from my honeymoon in 2 weeks, but I can make some phone calls from Italy to stabilize the Grandview situation. I'll need you to send an email to all the contractors explaining that I'm returning as Executive Vice President with full project authority." "Done." "And Mr. Henderson, I want all of this in writing before I make a single phone call on behalf of the company." 2 hours later, Sarah received a detailed employment contract via email. The terms were exactly as she had requested, including the 5% ownership stake and complete project management authority. Marcus Jr.'s written apology arrived an hour after that, a brief, obviously reluctant note, acknowledging his error in judgment and his respect for Sarah's professional contributions. As Sarah and David boarded their flight to Italy, her phone buzzed one final time. It was a text from Jennifer, the receptionist. "Welcome back, Ms. Mitchell. The whole office is talking about how you're now the P's executive VP." Marcus Jr. looked like he was going to be sick when his father announced it. This morning, David squeezed Sarah's hand as the plane prepared for takeoff. "How does it feel to be a business owner?" he asked with a grin. Sarah smiled, thinking about the long journey that had brought her to this moment. 5 years ago, she had been an intern, fetching coffee and organizing files. Yesterday morning, she had been fired on her wedding day by a petty, insecure man who thought he could intimidate her into submission. Now she was a part owner of Henderson and Associates, with complete authority over the projects she had spent years perfecting. She had turned the worst moment of her professional life into the greatest opportunity she had ever received. "It feels like justice," she said softly, watching the city disappear below them as they rose into the clouds. The Grandview Hotel opened 6 months later, 2 weeks ahead of schedule and under budget. It received a 5-star rating from 3 major travel publications, and was featured on the cover of Architectural Digest. The success led to contracts for 4 additional luxury hotel projects, making Henderson and Associates one of the most sought renovation companies in the country. Marcus Jr. was eventually transferred to the company's accounting department, where his father felt he could do less damage. He never spoke directly to Sarah again, communicating only through carefully worded emails when business required it. Sarah kept the text message he had sent on her wedding day. Sometimes, when she was having a difficult day or facing a challenging decision, she would read it again. "You're fired. Consider it my gift to you." It had turned out to be the greatest gift anyone had ever given her, just not in the way Marcus Jr. had intended. Years later, when Sarah was interviewed for a business magazine article about successful women in construction, she was asked about the turning point in her career. "The most important lesson I learned," she said, "is that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. You just have to have the courage to see the opportunity in the crisis." She never mentioned that the crisis had happened on her wedding day, or that it had been orchestrated by a vindictive colleague who thought he was destroying her future. Some stories were too personal to share, even when they had happy endings. But late at night, when she was reviewing contracts in her corner office as a partner in Henderson and Associates, Sarah would sometimes smile as she remembered the morning she stood in her wedding dress, reading a text message that was supposed to ruin her life. Instead, it had set her free.